Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching India Tonight with me, Sumita Karir, and our focus on the show is on the freebies debate. Well, India's per capita income is at $3,000, which is significantly lower than our peers. And what comes in handy? Well, these are welfare schemes by the government to provide some social security. These are often dubbed as freebies due to political parties using these to garner votes. But, ladies and gentlemen, the Supreme Court today once again slammed the culture of freebies. It questioned if we are creating a class of parasites. Well, it used that word. At the same time, we also heard from L&T chairman, who's lamented once again on how a huge chunk of the labor force is unwilling to move for jobs, again blaming welfare schemes. So the question is, what is the dichotomy, and are Indians actually feeling more prosperous, or is there more to the story? Let's explore all of these angles and some more with our guest who's joining us this evening, Mr. Prasenjit Bose, who's an economist. Thank you very much, Mr. Bose, for joining us here on India Tonight. Let's first address this statement that has come in from the Supreme Court, and the bench observed, and I quote, "People are not ready to work now because of freebies." Now, is that argument valid, especially when it comes to data and what data suggests with respect to these freebies which have been doled out in states which are going to polls, Delhi and Maharashtra? Give us a sense of what the data suggests.
I think the Supreme Court, Honorable Justice, has got it completely wrong, especially the causality. The fact that there are, welfare schemes and massive transfer of, this direct benefit transfer schemes that are being pursued not only by the central government, but state governments run by parties cutting across the political divide. You have BJP ruled state governments, Congress ruled state governments, and regional parties. Aam Aadmi Party government was there in Delhi earlier. The West Bengal state government, the state where I am from, all these state governments, they have their own welfare programs, and they're giving out these transfer payments or subsidies, whatever, income support, whatever way you characterize it. They're giving it precisely because the livelihood condition is bad. So, and the livelihood condition is not up to the mark, especially after the pandemic and recession. The recovery, a lot of economists have called it a K-shaped recovery. So at the bottom end of the income ladder, where majority of the people are, the income situation is precarious, and it is because of the lack of employment opportunities. So I think that is where the Supreme Court has got it wrong, that it is the lack of jobs, lack of decent work opportunities, and a general lack of demand in the economy, which is why people's real wages are going down, which the economic survey has very categorically shown, the latest economic survey, that real earnings are coming down for the majority of our workforce. That is why the governments are being forced in a way just to ensure that people are just, they don't go below a threshold of existence, that these these welfare transfers or doles, whatever you call it, they are being given. So I think that to cite this as a reason for people not working is actually misunderstanding what is really happening at the ground level.
I'm glad, sir, that you brought about that point of wages not exactly moving up as much as companies' profits are, and we'll come to that point in just a bit. But governments are not really thinking about, governments are just thinking about winning elections and not really about providing employment. So the Supreme Court has to step in. But the question then is, the Supreme Court has spoken about it multiple times in the past as well, and reprimanded poll-bound states and their governments. But how can this debate and this issue be settled once and for all? Can the Supreme Court look at setting up a framework, for instance, and what are some of the global examples that India can follow?
See, first of all, I think that the Supreme Court really should not venture into this territory. And it is a specific ideological position that people think that. So I don't think that this can be compared with pollution and environmental issues, because here the government, whichever government is, they are giving this, continuing with these schemes, they are democratically elected governments. So it's nothing unconstitutional that they are doing. It's nothing outside the law that they are doing it. And all of this, the forum to debate all this, the desirability of such transfers or such quote unquote populist schemes is are the state legislatures and the parliament. Now, if you are saying that are all the doles or all these transfer programs justified? No, I think that there is a point that some of them actually do not make sense. And I will make a distinction between, say, an employment guarantee program like the 100 days employment guarantee program or other such rural development schemes which create assets, in the economy. And things like free power, free free this, free that, which I think that beyond the point, if it is done in an irresponsible manner, and I would agree that there is a competitive populism now which is developing, which is not very healthy from the state finances point of view. But how that needs to be rectified or regulated. You have a very good example from, say, the United States. The United States has something called a Congressional Budget Office. Now, the Congressional Budget Office is an office of the government, but it is autonomous from the government of the day. So they produce these estimates, which are transparently put forward before the people of various schemes. Supposing if a political party is making a promise, what are the fiscal implications? From the positives, the negatives, everything is brought out by experts in a professional manner, and then the political class debates about it. I think that is how we should look at it, rather than getting into this judicial intervention in this matter, which is, I think, a prerogative of the executive and the legislature.
So why I brought about that point of the Supreme Court getting into it, because, ultimately the question is that if the government has their own interest here, which is to win elections, and obviously this is going to not be a matter of concern, at least for the government. So the question again that I'm going to ask you is, who will end up belling the cat?
Yeah, so, the government, of course, it has to win elections, but the government, if it is going bankrupt, is also going to have to face questions from the opposition and from the people eventually. So the government, just like the government is committed to, in fact, the critique would be that is the government doing enough? And there is, I think that there should be some introspection in when the subsidies or when the transfer payments are going to the poor. We are saying all these things like parasites and all that, but when the taxes are being cut, there was a huge tax cut in 2019. That also led to revenue. The impact on the fisc is the same. It has created an impact on the revenue. This year, in the budget, Union budget, there was a huge income tax cut that has come. And unfortunately, nobody seems to be talking against it, because the more vocal sections of the society are beneficiaries of these tax cuts. So I think this hypocrisy should be done away with. And yes, it has to be approached in a professional manner. This is a matter which needs to be approached in a professional manner. Which kind of transfer payments are beneficial for society and are sustainable from a fiscal point of view, and which are not. And I think it's a matter of professional opinion. There should be the planning commission was supposed to do this. Now that has been done away with. And this government, pardon my saying so, they are the worst in hypocrisy. The Prime Minister was calling rowdies and all this when the opposition run state governments were doing this. What is his own government doing? They are also indulging in competitive populism. In fact, very strangely, the Chief Justice, the judge who made this remark, one of the schemes he actually named is a scheme which was started by the BJP-led state government in Madhya Pradesh.
Right.
So, first of all, there has to be a political consensus and consistency, which right now is missing. So that is, I think, a part of the problem.
So So political consensus perhaps will be missing, and this is something that we've discussed with other economists in the past as well, some of whom say that there should be a non-governmental committee or a governmental committee that should be set up, and that essentially puts the cap on how much of freebies can be doled out so that it is fiscally prudent. It doesn't really put any burden on the state's coffers. But let me also draw your attention to these comments that have come in from the L&T chairman. He stoked controversy once again, stating that there is a labor shortage. So if his claims are to be believed, the question is, where is the labor and why are they not participating in the workforce? And why are they not really getting employed? Is it a problem that's related to skilling, or is it a problem that's related to quality jobs?
No, I think that the L&T chairman, I presume he's the same person who was talking about some absurd days of week which he wants workers to work. So very clearly he is fundamentally divorced from the Indian socio-economic conditions. The reality is that in India there is no shortage of labor per se. There is actually surplus labor, which is why today real wages are coming down, because there is surplus labor, especially in the rural areas.
Absolutely.
And there is a shortage of is skilled labor.
Yes.
Now imparting skill, because it is the skilled labor which is what the corporate sector demands, and that is the job of the government. And I would say that it is also the job of the corporate sector. The government and the corporate sector should work together to invest more in education, in skill training, imparting skills, and creating a more healthy and a more skilled workforce. Unfortunately,
Yes.
neither the corporate sector nor the government in our country seems to be interested in that direction.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that he is mistaken skilled the shortage of skilled labor with a general shortage of labor. There is no shortage of labor in our country. We
Yes.
are the most populous country in the world,
Yes.
more than China today. We
Yes.
are a surplus labor country.
Absolutely. And let me add to your point about, there is not any shortage of labor in our country. And of course, skilling is the need of the hour. And this is something that has been a demand that has been raised over and over again with the kind of technological developments that we are seeing in the job market and labor market, sir. But one estimate actually suggests that approximately 100 million people in the country are not even looking for jobs. They have given up hope. So essentially, the question once again is about this reliance on freebies. Surely is a way of political parties creating short-term solutions of giving people money, but it's not really settling that larger issue of labor and unemployment that is staring this government widely in the face.
No, I partly agree with you, but I partly don't. First of all, I think that the reason why there is so much of unemployment is because it's a demand problem. It's not a supply problem. It's a demand problem that there is not enough investment in the economy. There is not enough consumption in the economy. There is not enough exports and economic activity, which creates industries, which creates services, which creates assets, and which creates jobs. So it is a problem of demand, and which is why there is an excess supply of labor in the economy. It is not the other way around, that since doles are being given, people are those who have opted out of the workforce. They have opted out because they have looked for a job and they have got none. So this entire tragic case of people dropping out of the workforce should not be seen as laziness. It is that they have given up on the hope of getting a decent job opportunity, and therefore they have fallen off the labor force. So let us not look at the problem from a completely erroneous point of view.
Absolutely, sir. And let me also point it out that that figure of 100 million people actually being hopeless and not really looking for jobs has been shared with us by prominent economists in the country who've spoken to earlier as well. On that note, thank you very much, sir, for sharing your thoughts on this debate around